Hi, I'm Janelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and welcome to this Q&A with Minamata. This is such a fantastic, timely film, and I am so pleased to welcome today's guests. We have writer-director Andrew Levitas and producer and actor Johnny Depp. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Whenever I have people as accomplished as the two of you, and that is not often, I actually like to go back to the beginning and ask, what was sort of your first job in the entertainment industry? Did you start off in a mailroom, or Andrew? You've had several careers. I'm curious. I think did you start as an actor?
Well, only accidentally. I was I was painting. Yeah, exactly. That's why we get along. I was painting and sculpting and writing and making sort of experimental films since I was a really young kid. And I found my way accidentally on a movie set, which then turned into a random job on a television show. And those things just sort of continued. I learned in the early days where there's an opportunity to learn, don't say no.
Wow. I think that probably really helps you with actors. That might be one of the reasons you're so good with actors. You've done it.
I guess so. I think maybe just that I listen, and I've been really fortunate that I've worked with actors like Johnny and the rest of this cast in particular that maybe identify, and I don't want to give, I don't want to put identifiers on Johnny, but that identify as artists first and as creative people, and that could have been doing 50 different, disciplines or gone down different paths, but ultimately found that the best way of expression for them, or the path that jumped out at them, was acting. And I think those are the people that I connect with. I mean, on our cast and crew, half the cast and crew were painters. Everybody here was basically a painter. And so oftentimes, that's our language. And Johnny and I are often talking in terms of, literary references and art references and music references versus really film ones. So I think that's more of the connective piece.
That's so cool. And Johnny, for you, what was your first job as an actor?
First job was A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, in, let's say, '84. That was Wes Craven, for some reason, cast me as one of the group in that film, and that was the first time I'd ever acted. That was the first time I'd ever been on a film set. Certainly, I'd only been on one film set prior. That was when I was a child, watching William Shatner make some movie in Florida. So that was, yeah.
What a great one to start with. And I actually live very close to the Elm Street house in West Hollywood. Yeah. We go there every Halloween.
Well, it's nice to drive by now and again and see that.
So congratulations on a beautiful movie. I'd love to start at the beginning with Johnny, because I think you've been familiar with Eugene Smith's work for some time. At what point did you know you wanted to tell, not just his story, but specifically about his time in Minamata?
I had been somewhat fascinated by Eugene Smith for many years, and for the first thing that really, certainly his photographs were beyond intriguing, and then you read about his experiences in the Second World War and such. And it was a wonderful photographer who's since made her exit, Mary Ellen Mark, knew him, and I asked her about him. She said that he introduced himself as W. Eugene Smith, and she said, "What does the W stand for?" And he said, "Wonderful." And I thought that answer explained him in an instant, kind of, curmudgeonly, you know, definitely had his slings and arrows, the thing he had to drag things around, Eugene Smith. So he's a fascinating character. On top of that, then you learn about the horrors in Minamata and this crotchety, old, mean bastard going there to try and help these people and falling in love with these people. And certainly his wife in the process. Fascinating and not I mean, this story should be known worldwide. These mistakes continue all over the planet, and they should be looked at. There should be someone looking into these things. So I feel so happy that we got to tell the story as the story needed to be told by the truth.
I'm embarrassed to say that I did not know the story. I obviously knew the famous photograph of the bath,
Yes.
but assumed that everything had worked out, and that is not the case. And I feel really, really guilty. I didn't know better.
Well, it's wild. It's his language. I mean, which was imagery, is almost more powerful than the word in this instance. That's why I mean, back then a photo essay, the opportunity for a photo essay on opening this thing up was huge, and he came out of obscurity and went back into obscurity.
And the thing, just to add on to that I think we both have found so dynamic is there was a personality like Johnny describes, but an inner light and hope for mankind, and the ability to see past the absolute worst of what people do to each other, of how we treat our earth, of how we treat each other, of how we've set up our societies, and still see that sort of and express through the work and capture the moments where you could see the love and the absolute best of humanity. And so whereas there are so many there seem to be in today's world a view of just it's over, like it's done, it's doom and gloom, it's the end, there's nothing you can do, there's no goodness there. And then there's the other side, which is let's just put our head in the sand and pretend it's not there. And in Gene's case, and I think hopefully in our case with this film, and certainly in the other work that I do, and this is something that's very important to me, I think your goal is to inspire and offer a path through, and also illustrate how beautiful it is to be human, and how beautiful and how wonderful we can be when we look after each other. And that's never gone. And even in our most sort of villainous type characters, that kernel of humanity still exists. And I think that's the thing that we all need to mine and try to bring forward for younger people today, and already made up their minds about these issues.
I think a lot, exactly what you're saying is true. The Gene Smith that was the well-worn sidearm of schooled in the battles of the Second World War, coming up the ranks, the only way I believe that what Eugene Smith is very close, very akin to what Hunter Thompson was in the sense of, there's a great quote in the beginning of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas that Hunter used by Dr. Johnson, and it says, "He who makes a beast of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man."
Mm.
So I think that Gene Smith, Hunter Thompson, those, that ilk, that caliber, they are hyper sensitive, hyper sensitive, but must protect themselves by putting layer upon layer upon layer to try to cover themselves and keep that warmth in, without, you know, losing themselves to the, as William Saroyan put it, the shame and degradation of the world. You know, they layer themselves.
I
And they're
absolutely understand.
and they're also not the story, right? I mean, what's so special and one of the
They're the eye.
they're the
They're the
and that
eye.
was special about, you know, when John and I first started talking about making this film, the thing that was, you know, one of the things that was most exciting was the idea that, you know, Gene Smith is not the story, right? And so Johnny was going to allow us to create a narrative, to create an approach to this film where we could sort of teach the language of photography, teach the language of cinema, of photography through cinema, in the beginning of our film, understand Gene's eye, understand Gene's poetic nature, understand his worldview, and then take the camera away from him and let Gene observe for us and
Yeah.
understand what it means. And so, you know, when you look at the, you know, excuse me for saying this, Johnny, but when you look at the incredibly sort of subtle and powerful work that Johnny does in the film, what's remarkable is that as we as we move deeper into the film, you know, the community who are the real heroes of this film, the people that were fighting on the ground, come to the forefront, and we understand more of them and can take a deeper, more complex and poetic view, and one that we can see ourselves in, because Gene, and Johnny as Gene, moves back. It's a really unusual, you know, type of approach, and one that was really exciting, and I think consistent with the work that Smith did. And obviously our hope, and, you know, to fill the shoes of someone as meaningful, who moved society and moved the world forward and touched so many lives through his work. You know, certainly we had millions of frames to do this with, and Gene had, you know, just a few. But to sort of capture the essence of that has been really, was really one of the goals, and was quite glad that we were able to do it.
It's such a beautiful performance. And Johnny, I'm not sure, maybe you don't like being complimented because you kind of hid when Andrew complimented you. So if you want to go off screen for a minute, I'm just going to talk about how great you are.
It's very kind.
No, it's an incredibly moving performance. And you've obviously played real